for roundness or flat spots. Obviously that's not done yet. That's pretty good. I've got that pretty good. Started the taper down towards the bottom. This will be the bottom, obviously. Before I start up here, I'm going to get the tenon ready. All I was doing there is just flattening up the bottom, and now I'll cut in a tenon. A lot of people use skews or whatnot, but I always just use a bowl gouge with, I believe that's an Irish grind on it. Now I notice some of the sapwood here is a little bit rotten, so I'm gonna go down a little bit further on that. It's my worst fear, having to catch in front of y'all. Oh, yeah. Glad I got that out of the way. Now I can breathe easy. How to not have it? The ABCs. Yeah. Well, what I did there was I put the tool to the wood without the tool rest there. Yeah, it's on camera, it's documented. What I did was just not paying attention, and you should always plant your tool first on the tool rest. Get the tool ABCs, right? I've heard that used. And then proceed on, but I got a little ahead of myself, which is embarrassing. Thanks for bringing that up again. Just gonna use a bowl gouge on this one. Obviously, you can see you're turning some air in this situation. Watch your fingers. So what I like to do is get right kind of over it so I can see the ghost, kind of, is what I've heard it's been called. Make this curve and make it a little smoother, and so at this point I would sand up to here while the lathe's spinning, and then I would use my drill on the curved parts. Because of that live edge bit, I could get in here and sand, but then as the lathe rotates, this part would get rounded off and this part would get rounded off, and it'd just be uneven. So, like I said, if you just hold up to a certain point, this is just 120. And I would probably start with that since there's tool marks in here. Get rid of those and then progress through the grits. Very. It was cut down probably 3 years ago and has been sitting in my shop ever since. And this is my steady rest that I use. I bought this on Etsy. You can search Etsy for wood lathe steady rests and this should pop up. I think there's a few guys that make them now. Guy has a CNC machine, so he can literally you tell him what lathe you have, or he has a list of them there, and he just types in his specs to his computer and will make you a steady rest. At the time when I bought it, it was a little over $100. I think they've almost doubled in price now because of the price of the lumber, I believe. I'm not real sure. All right, and of course these don't have to be pressed down, just sitting there. So let's try this out. Looks pretty good. So I will slide this up a little bit, just for added safety since I have people sitting right in front of me. Now I'm all set up to start hollowing. And obviously I'm going into the end grain. You can see the pith of this is right there, which inherently makes it more difficult to do. It's tougher turning. But what I like to do first is start from my little edge here and work my way down and clear out some of the stuff, get this weighing a little less, I guess. And I'll just start out with one of my bowl gouges here. Again, watch your fingers. So I think that's as far as we'll go to avoid that. I want to get this section flat before I use these. So I'm just going to get rid of this little piece and then we'll move on to boring it out. I don't know if that's totally necessary. It just seems like a good idea to me to have a nice flat section for the Forstner bit. Normally I'd go a lot slower than this. And then we just advance in there. I'm also guilty of getting these stuck in there. Who's done that? I also have used to having an air compressor to blow all this stuff out. Didn't think that'd be a good idea in here. And while I'm still out here, I'll use my bowl gouge. Once I get in deeper, I'll start using this carbide tip. You could, in all actuality, and I've thought about doing it before. Reggie, I think you mentioned it before. Just drill that hole and stop there, and you can buy those glass test tubes. They sell them in packs of 30 or something like that, and just insert one of those, and boom, there's your vase. But I enjoy hollowing stuff out. It's challenging. Again, watch your hands. Dry cherry will take the edge off your tools very quickly. No, I have a jig made by Woodturner Wonders. I think it's called what do they call theirs? There's a Wolverine that's very popular, but they have their own. It's very useful to get the same grind. I freehanded for the first couple years on just a bench grinder with just stone wheels on it. And I came up with a different grind every time, which made it interesting. So since I got that, I would like to actually start practicing doing it freehand, because I like watching those videos of like Ashley Harwood or any of those guys that just they keep their sharpening station turning or on the whole time while they turn, and they just go up, and it's pretty fun. I'm going to get that little ring out of here and hollow some more. I've got a bigger bit for that. We could be here a while if I didn't bore it out some more. So get rid of this. And these are just cheap bowl gouges I bought off of Amazon. The handles they're light and cheap. This is by far my favorite bowl gouge that I have. Robert Sorby, 1/2 inch. This one's awesome. Got a hard ash handle. How critical? You could. But it's so easy with longer pieces like that, if you have even a small catch. And especially with the end grain, the way it is held in the chuck, I don't know if less stable is the right word. Yeah, since it's grabbing onto the side grain, it's less stable. So it's a lot easier to throw a piece off the lathe that way. And I did it a bunch before I got that. You certainly could, and people do. But with this thing, I've had some pretty nasty catches just being careless, and it'll make a lot of noise but won't come flying off the lathe. So it's a pretty good investment. So I'm just going to hollow this out now a little bit more with the carbide. round carbide tip on it, and they're cheap. Buy new ones whenever they get dull. And I always work from the middle of the piece working out. As you can see, I'm making pretty light passes with these carbide tools. You can't get super aggressive with them like you can with gouges. So I won't bore you with going all the way down the line there, because we'll be here for another hour doing that. Thank you. Sanding it on the inside obviously is depends on how ballsy you are, sticking your hand in there while the lathe's turning. Wouldn't suggest that. It's not a great idea. I've done it. But I mean, they make fun little guys like this. I'm not crazy about it. This was a cheap one that I bought. I'd use it on bigger pieces. I've also got the knockout bar from my lathe. I'll get like a paper towel or something like that, and then wrap it with sandpaper and rubber band it and use that as it's turning. You can get pretty creative. But just like on the other side, I mean, you can get just up here with your drill. And to finish this off, I would probably either just part it off. I'm not going to do that right now because I'll actually finish this. So I'd turn the piece back around, and that cone fits right in here and doesn't damage the piece at all. So I can have the end out here and part that off. On cherry, anything really, because cherry's going to darken a lot naturally over time. So if you're worried, if you don't like, well, like stuff like linseed oil or like tried and true, their like original stuff, it's going to add a little yellowing to woods like maple and stuff like that. But with cherry, it doesn't. It just sort of accelerates that darkening process. So I like that sort of stuff. If you were going to use this as a vase, I have coated the inside of it with epoxy, and that's worked. I've got some friends that have a black walnut piece I did similar to this, and they've had flowers in it for 2 years, and it hasn't leaked. So you can do that.